Nepest have sent me an updated version of their wheel set. It's no longer the Maui, it's now the Nova. And I'm going to be putting them on my new Seeker Spear here. If you want to see the build up of this bike, video link below. Quite a good video, I think. I think Nepest now might be some of China's most innovative wheel set makers. They've got some really interesting stuff going on in here. So I'm going to go over some of the features and the changes that they've made. And I think where they've really made the biggest differences are the spokes. And does this make them China's most innovative wheel brand? Let's get these things unboxed and get into the video. Well, it certainly comes nicely packaged. Of course, classic Nepest, you get a pretty awesome wheel bag that they come into. These are actually surprisingly useful when you're putting the bike in the car and stuff. That's good, makes them even more protected. You do get a little bit more with them. Thankfully, they come with 4 new spokes, so if you ever need any broken ones replaced, which they shouldn't, which I'm going to get into later. Some tubeless rim tape, and it looks like they've stocked a lot more this time than they used to, so you can do 2 layers around the wheel. Come with a special tool that helps you adjust the spoke heads because they have a new hidden nipple feature, and some tubeless valves for when you want to set your bike up tubeless. That's actually quite a decent amount of stuff that it comes with in the box. You don't get that with a lot of brands. These wheels do come with loads of depth options that I'm about to put on screen now, but the ones that I've got here with me are the 55mm deep ones, which I think are probably going to be the most versatile all-rounders. A little bit deeper, but also a little bit lighter. I'm just going to weigh them in real quick for you here, and you can see that they come in at 1320 grams, 1320. For a 55mm deep wheel, that is right at the competitive number. Let's get into all the features that these wheels now offer. So this is where it gets really exciting. Strap in, there are tons of changes. Let's get going. First of all, they've gone wider on the internal. They've gone from a 21mm to a 23mm internal. Next up, they've also gone wider on the width. They've gone from a 28mm to a 30mm external width. Once again, to suit those more modern tire sizes. They are, of course, tubeless ready with a hooked rim. They've made the shape of the profile even more U-shaped. That should make it more stable in the side winds. The previous version had a very slight V-taper towards the bottom of the rim. They have kept the laser edge decals to save weight, but you can have white option as well. They've upgraded the ceramic bearings to a brand called Sema or Sema. I'm not totally familiar with them, but I think they're supposed to be more reliable and a better quality ceramic bearing inside the hubs. As you can probably see on the hub itself here, that the sides of the spokes are exposed, but because of the design of the shape of the inside, they cannot exit outwards on the spoke. So the spoke should never delace that way, and that's their own patented design. I'm going to link a video to Hanbini's channel where he kind of explains this a little bit better, because he is an engineer, I'm a physio, but apparently that is bloody hard to machine. They now also have hidden spoke nipples on the spokes, on the rim end. This saves a claimed 20% in aerodynamic drag off the spoke nipple itself, which is pretty awesome. Now, the spoke nipples are obviously a very small number to the aerodynamic number, so that number is going to be really small, but still should make it faster. On the non-bladed section of the spokes, so the more circular area at the top and the bottom of the spokes here, they have gone from 2.2 to 1.8 millimeters wide. They're now thin. And then the bladed section, even thinner. They've gone from 1.4 millimeters to 0.9 millimeters. These things are razor thin. That should make them even more aerodynamic because the spokes do add to the aerodynamics of the wheel. Guys, I've had to come back and film this bit separately. I've been on a group ride today and there's quite a few Chinese wheels hanging around, and it's just made me realize how skinny and slim these spokes are. Looking at other people's bikes and wheels, they legitimately look like steel spoke wheels. Normally carbon spokes, you know, they're obvious, they're very clear that it's a carbon spoke wheel. These look like a steel spoke wheel. As I just said, they make other carbon spokes just look fat. They also have this T-shaped head, which you should be able to see from the side there. That means that the blade when you insert them into the wheel, it's always going to be facing in the perfect direction. Meaning if you ever need to make any adjustments to the spokes, that blade is always going to be perfect. Also, because of the way that the spoke T-head is milled here, when it's inserted into the spoke hole, it means there should be less torsional stress on the spoke itself, meaning the spoke is less likely to suffer from a torsional failure. But all of those updates add up to 30% less frontal area on the spokes. That should be a fairly measurable difference in a wind tunnel. Also, the spokes have gone from 3 grams to 1.8 grams per spoke. That is super light. And they've done all of that whilst making these like little T-heads and the spoke nipples out of titanium. They used to use aluminium, which is actually lighter, but the benefit of titanium is that they're much more corrosion resistant, or well, they don't really corrode at all. So that should once again increase the reliability of the wheel. I'm still not quite done, I'm getting there guys, but I think these are important changes to the wheel. Stick with me for a little bit longer. So apparently they've managed all of that whilst maintaining the same tensile strength of the spokes, which is really good. But also because the spokes are now a little bit longer on both the hub side and because they go internally into the rim there, that means that they absorb more vibration and should be a little bit more compliant. Now, it's only going to do so much. It's not going to be like the most comfortable wheel in the world all of a sudden, but it's going to be better than it was before. All of this weight saving and stuff like that has meant that they can actually add a little bit more carbon to the rim to make the rim more robust. That's pretty sweet. So now the maximum limit of these rims is 125 kilos. It just means it can be used for more riders and makes you more confident that it is a robust wheel. The only thing that's really stayed the same is the free hub body. They've just kept that DT Swiss style free hub in there, which is super reliable and just doesn't need to be changed. Wow, okay, those are some pretty insane upgrades. Let's build this wheel up and see what it actually looks like fully built. I've got some GP 5000s to pair the wheels with here, and I've got a 30 for the rear and a 28 for the front, just to keep it slightly narrow and slightly more aero, and I think that this will sit perfectly on that front wheel there. I am actually spending some time here to try and balance the wheels out a little bit. I've done this on some previous wheel sets and I am all game for it now. It doesn't feel it so much in the UK, but when you're in other countries on actual smooth roads, you can notice an unbalanced wheel after having it balanced. So I'm gonna do a video about it all later this year. Well guys, here they are on. I'll let you make your mind up with how you think they look. I think the contour details and kind of like the rocket style stuff is subtle enough that, you know, you really can't tell that much. You know, it's quite a very like hidden wheel, if that makes sense. It's a discrete wheel. Also on the hub here, you have a little star on the hub. I think that's quite a nice touch. So as I've said earlier, I've got a 28 on the front here, and you can see like the edge interaction is really nice. It just about fits that 30mm perfectly. Let's see what this actually measures in at. There you go, just over 30mm there, or just under, depending how tight you squeeze the caliper. But because it's a GP5, I suspect that will blow out by 1mm, so it might be 31mm by the time this tyre comes to the end of its life. You can see a 30mm measures in at 31.5, just under 31.5mm on the tyre there. I'll try and show you, it really does not stick out much. Of course, it's 1.5mm that are poking out, 0.75mm on each side, so it's really not going to stick out much. And I think a bit of extra width on the back is quite nice for that comfort and puncture protection. I do also like how you can see the raw carbon through there, like the UD kind of style. You know, it just looks nice, just a bare kind of carbon look. Well, if it was bad quality carbon, you would see it. I think we have to weigh the bike in with these wheels. I'm expecting it to be a little bit lighter. It's got some lighter tyres on there. And that is coming in at 7.11 kilos. That is not bad for a 58 frame like this. I know it's got durace, but it's got 175 cranks and some deep section wheels on there. Now that the wheels are on the bike, let's have a short chat about the price and the cost of these wheels. In the UK, they come in at about £1,140, and I'll put the dollar conversion on screen now. Now, price-wise, when you're looking at, well, the Western market, that is very cheap for a wheel that is this light and has this much kind of innovation in it. But when we stick it in the Chinese market for prices, it kind of sits middle of the range in terms of prices. 1,400 pounds, maybe 1,500. The bottom end kind of coming about, well, 400 to 800 pounds in terms of prices. But for me, for a wheel that does so much innovation in the spoke side of things, and for a wheel that at the moment should be really, really robust and well designed, that's quite a good price. Of course, not only that, you get extra like spokes and tools and rim tape and tubeless valves, which add to the value of the wheels. I do have a 5% discount code, which I'm going to link on screen now and put in the description down below, which will get you 5% off, making them even better in terms of budget. But one thing I will say, guys, probably wait for the full review just to see if they actually ride like a good wheel as well. If they are on par or even better than the previous versions, then it's probably going to be a recommendation for me, but let's wait and see. There are also now shops in the UK that are stocking these wheels as standard. So if you need any maintenance, returns, just need help with warranties and stuff like that, that's going to really benefit us in the UK. Now, I don't know if there's any more in Europe and America and Australia. Sorry guys, I don't know. Are there any downsides to these wheels? And this is just going to be a personal opinion. Nepest isn't the sexiest name in the world, but just like with any brand name, after they become bigger and more well known, you kind of just get used to it. One thing I have noticed, guys, when putting fresh tires on, ones that you haven't used before, you know they're normally quite tight. This paintless finish, I think it looks fantastic. It obviously saves a bit of weight, but I have noticed, you need a lot of light to see it, but you can kind of see that it's actually kind of rubbed it a little bit, made it more matte than gloss, just in that one section there. Honestly, I haven't really noticed it when I've been out on the road and in the light, to be honest, but it's just something that kind of seems to happen on these wheels. If the tire is really tight to get on, you're kind of just rubbing that paintless finish off a little bit. That actually only happened on the 28 on the front here. On the 30 on the rear, there's literally no evidence of that happening because it was much easier to get on. The 28 was actually fairly hard to get on. I also think that the decals here are going to be a little bit divisive. They're only on the top half near the Nepest logo, which is quite big on there. But as I say, quite subtle in the laser etched look. But the rest of the wheel is barren and plain, so it is still quite a subtle wheel, especially from a distance. Normally, I don't like stuff on the wheel. I think in the long run, they might start to grow on me a little bit. We'll see. We'll say whether they do in my ride review or not. I'm going to keep the initial ride impressions quite brief here because it's only been one ride and it did rain a fair bit, so I didn't get to test the handling out properly. But I genuinely must say these are the first carbon wheelset with carbon spokes that ride like a steel spoked wheel. I always say when you've got carbon spokes, it's like running, instead of a 30mm tyre, it's like having one narrower tyre. It's like running a 28mm tyre instead. These feel like a steel spoked wheel. The comfort levels are just genuinely just that little bit more. When it comes to the responsiveness of the wheel, I gotta say, initial impressions again, excellent, but it was raining again, so I couldn't push the whole like 1700 watts. I'm a big dude, I weigh 90 kilos, but my peak power was 1200 watts on this ride and they felt pretty damn responsive. Same again, like a steel spoked wheel, but they just had a little bit of snap to them. They just felt sharp under the body. But make sure you wait for the full review because I'm not gonna confirm anything that I've said so far. And last thing to talk about, unfortunately, I couldn't get an impression of how it handled in the winds. Like I said, it's got a much more U-shape, but today was literally like the flattest wind day I've ridden this year in the UK, so guys, there they are, the Nepest wheels. Lots of innovation, lots of interesting stuff on the spokes, I think. Just certain things that other brands aren't doing, especially from the Chinese side of the market, all delivered in quite a good value package there. But make sure you subscribe for the full review whether these wheels are going to be a really good set or if they're just going to make the cut kind of thing. Guys, as usual, if you think I've missed anything in this video, put them in the comments below. I reply to pretty much most things. Or you can also find me on Instagram over here and you can message me privately there. But other than that, I've been Jason. This has been Cycling Unboxed. Catch you in another video.